Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone who has tuned in to our first ever Ramadan Recharge and Ramadan Reflection podcast with MCNA and YMJ. Inshallah, today we are going to be covering a lot of topics related to Ramadan. How can we prepare for Ramadan? How can we sustain our energies during Ramadan? And most of all, what goals we should think about planning for Ramadan. I know there's just a couple of days left, but these are the days that are the most important that we need to buckle down and we need to really think about who we are right now and who we want to become in Ramadan and what are the changes that we can sustain after Ramadan. So, Alhamdulillah, we are joined by Sheikh Osama Baqai. Sheikh Osama Baqai has completed his bachelor's in Sharia from Medina University and his bachelor's in accounting. And he will be giving us lots of words of advice. So make sure you guys have your notebooks, your pens, whatever it is that you need to take some notes, inshallah. And a quick introduction about me. I am Ustada Sidra. I myself am also studying my master's, and inshallah, I will be your host number one, and Sheikh Osama will be our host number two. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and let's get started. Sheikh Osama, what would you like to start us off with?
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. First and foremost, it's such a pleasure to be here with everyone tonight on this beautiful weekend. I hope that everyone, it's a bit cold outside in our area, and I hope that everyone's staying warm. So this series is designed to help us prepare and make the most of this blessed month. Each week we'll tap into a different topic and address the challenges that we're facing, and really try to maximize and have a heightened experience this blessed month, inshallah. We'll be discussing the importance of Ramadan specifically in this and a lot more in this week. And then in the coming weeks, inshallah, we'll have dedicated topics on how we can make the best of this month, inshallah. I'm very excited, and I'm happy that everyone was able to join us today. And I'll hand it back to you.
Alhamdulillah. Honestly, I'm really, really excited for Ramadan. I know some people are a bit overwhelmed or they're stressed out or they're like, how do we make more time for increasing our spirituality? But I really, truly feel like the things that are important to us, we do make time for it. So just by being here, you guys are already on the right path, or you've taken the first step to preparing for Ramadan because you've taken that time out of your busy schedules, out of your busy days. Maybe you finished your homework before, maybe you're planning to do your homework after, but you are here and that's what matters the most. So, Sheikh Sama, what have you been doing currently to prepare for Ramadan so far?
That's a big question, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with this month of Sha'ban. And this is the month that is from the Sunnah, where the Prophet ﷺ would start his preparation, right? Just as any athlete would, before their big match, before the big game, before the marathon, they would start warming up. They'd start getting their body physically ready, mentally and spiritually ready as well. Our Prophet ﷺ was alert and ready in the month of Sha'ban, exerting himself and preparing himself so he can reap the rewards in the blessed month of Ramadan. If you start with energy, you'll be able to get the most out of the month. But if you're caught blindsided by the month, and obviously it's going to be a bit difficult. So for me personally, I have increased the amount of dhikr that I'm doing. So that's
Mm.
one key area that I'm focusing on, that getting my tongue moist with dhikr. So when the month of Ramadan is here, I'll already be in that habit, inshallah. How about yourself, Asada? What's your action item that you've been focusing on prior to this
Um,
month?
Since last Ramadan, subhanAllah, I was like, why do I only try to work on good habits during the month of Ramadan? So I kind of like made like a habit tracker to try to motivate myself to be a better Muslim on the daily. So even if it was just like two or three things from Ramadan that I did last Ramadan, say for example, I wanted to do daily istighfar 100 times a day, and then I really, really tried to, increase my Quran reading, not memorization, not just revising, but just reading. So those are a couple of things that like I've been trying to sustain over time. Of course, things go up and down, and sometimes I'm super busy, and sometimes, accidentally my priorities shift. But I've been really, really trying to get into that mindset of motivating myself to continue those habits. And then in Ramadan, adding more and then hopefully sustaining more good habits as well. What do you think are some other habits I should think about adding other than your habit of dhikr as well, which is an absolutely phenomenal habit to add as well?
Yeah. No, I really like your habit of having a tracker. We'll discuss that a little later on, but that's something you want to jot it down. Definitely add that to your list of action items and things that you want to take away from this webinar, inshallah, this podcast. So Ramadan's right around the corner. It's important that we start preparing. Um, the way I want to frame this is that we need this month. We need
Mm,
this. We're
100%.
desperately in need for it. You know, when you're on Wednesday in the week and you've had a rough week already, you're looking forward to Friday evening. You're looking forward to that weekend when it's been cold winter and you've had just a really difficult semester so far, and you're just really looking forward to that spring break. You get nicer weather, enjoy time with your family, just get your mind off school. This is it. This is it. This is our spiritual vacation that we're looking forward to. So building that excitement, right? Building that excitement that we're headed towards our spiritual vacation. This is something we're desperately in need for. And I'll be very frank, right? We lose track of our spirituality because of the busyness of the year. But
Yeah.
Ramadan is that time to recalibrate. Ramadan is that time to recalibrate and rejuvenate ourselves and get a jump start in our spirituality and give our hearts that connectedness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we need, that we're so desperately yearning for.
I really like those words that you use, recalibrate and rejuvenate, because it's so different than the current mindset that, we've been taught as children about Ramadan, that, oh, Ramadan is this like boot camp, and, it's so strict and you can't do this and that and that and that. But you know what? It's so important to reframe it in a more positive way that, yeah, sure, it's like a boot camp, but it's more like you said, it's a spiritual vacation. No one looks forward to going to a boot camp. No one wants to go to a boot camp. It's a punishment to go to a boot camp. But to go to a vacation, people save up, people plan, they make itineraries, they really, really prepare for a vacation. And that's exactly the optimism and enthusiasm we should have for Ramadan as well. That, you know what, like, oh my God, like Ramadan is coming. I am trying my best to be prepared. This is my itinerary. These are the things that I've packed in my spiritual suitcase, and these are the things that I want to do in my spiritual vacation. So I really, really like this new framing of Ramadan that you're talking about, of recalibration and rejuvenation.
Yeah, and you know what's remarkable? I was speaking to some teenagers. Uh, it was 2 days ago. It's 2 days ago.
Hmm.
We were sitting down talking about Ramadan, and it's a physical challenge, right? We're not eating, we're not drinking, and our
Right.
bodies are fatigued. But if anyone thinks back to the month of Ramadan, they're excited about it.
Yeah.
They're happy
Yeah.
about it. If you talk to a non-Muslim and you tell them, "Oh yeah, I'm not eating or drinking during the daylight hours for 30 days," they
And
would
they're
think
like, not even water.
yeah, not even water. And some of them get it confused. They think you're not eating for 30 days straight at all. Um, but they think of it as a non-Muslim perceives it as a burden, a difficulty.
Mm,
But the believer, we see it as a spiritual vacation. We're like, yeah, it was awesome. Ramadan was amazing. We went to Taraweeh. We had amazing iftar. I was reconnected with the Quran, and almost every Muslim that I talk to, they have a positive view of Ramadan.
yeah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, bidnillahi ta'ala, by the end of this podcast, hopefully we're able to inspire just a couple of more mindset shifts. Before we do get more deep into our discussion, inshallah, we'll be watching a video by Imam Asif Hirani, inshallah.
Inshallah. And before we jump into the video, if I may,
Of course,
this
of course.
is this is a key takeaway that I think everyone should jot down as well. Ramadan is a time for human connectedness. It's awesome. We have YouTube lectures. We have these podcasts. You're going to have connection to scholarship through videos. But what's really important is getting connected to scholarship at the grassroots levels in your local masajid with your local imam, right? Go up to your local imam and thank them. Thank them for leading the salah. Thank them for all the hard work that they do in delivering lectures and being there for the community. And one of the sunnahs from the Sahaba, it's a sunnah of the Sahabi, right? That what's something that the Sahabi used to do. They were the people of Jannah, so we want to see what they did, how they interacted with the Prophet ﷺ. They would go up to the Prophet ﷺ and say, Ya Rasulullah, give me some advice, right? Obviously, they're already hearing so many hadith, they're benefiting so much. Just like us, we're learning so much about Islam through our classes, but going up to a mentor, going up to the Imam and asking them, hey, what's your one advice that you would give to a 11-year-old as a Muslim and going to public school? Just having that conversation, building that human relationship, I think that will go a long way. Imam Asif is a huge gem. Let's see what he has to, what insights he has for us about this blessed month.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. I hope you guys are doing great, alhamdulillah, and I hope all of us are very excited for the upcoming month of Ramadan. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all the ability to witness this month of Ramadan. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all the ability to fast in this month of Ramadan, to pray as much as we can, so that we can seek His forgiveness and His pleasure, inshallah ta'ala. I just want to make this first video as a reminder for myself and for all of you that how should you prepare for the month of Ramadan. I was talking to my kids, 10 and 12-year-old boy and a girl, and I was telling them that this year, the spring break will be over when the month of Ramadan will start. So most likely you will have Ramadan while you're going to school in the daytime, which actually spiritually it makes our job a little difficult, because in the nighttime you have to pray Taraweeh, and in the daytime you have to fast along with the school. But that's what the life is. Life is not only about fasting and spending Ramadan in summer. It just teaches us and makes us more strong how to spend Ramadan and live a real life. And this is how the real life is. So we need to manage our time properly. So first advice for all of you, again, the first advice for all of you is to do proper time management. Do not waste your time. If you're going 5, 6, 7 hours to school, maybe equal time 7, 8 hours for sleeping, then the remaining 7, 8 hours what we have, you should dedicate that time as much as you can after taking your time from your school homework and for eating and drinking and some relaxation. Most of the time you should spend towards seeking closeness and seeking pleasure and seeking forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, spending time with the Quran, seeking spirituality. So do proper time management. That's number one advice I will give to all the school going kids. Manage your sleep properly. If you're coming, let's say around 2, 3, 3:30 from the school, then just make sure that you're managing your sleep properly so that you can focus on spirituality at night, sleeping before iftar if that's possible, so that you can gain your energy at night while praying Taraweeh. And make sure, so that's point one, just manage your time properly, because that's one of the mistakes I see from the teenagers and preteen kids, that they don't manage their time properly, and hence the beautiful month of Ramadan, they will just waste this month. Second advice which I have for all of you is that the month of Ramadan is a reminder for me and for you. Again, the month of Ramadan is a reminder for me and for you all that Allah's instructions is more important than my feelings. How? I'll tell you with an example. So let's say after Salatul Asr in Ramadan, I will be feeling hungry. I will be feeling thirsty. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said no to eating, no to drinking until Maghrib. So even though I'm feeling hungry, even though I'm feeling thirsty, I'm not supposed to eat anything. I'm not supposed to drink anything. Why? Even though that thing is halal, that meat is halal, that apple is halal, that water is halal for me. But in Ramadan, Allah made those halal things haram. Why? because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to teach us in this Ramadan that Allah's instructions are more important than my feeling. And this is exactly what we have to learn. Ramadan will be over. Soon you can eat and drink whatever you want, whenever you want, because Ramadan will be over soon. But this lesson should stay with us, that Allah's instructions are more important than my feeling. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, talks about fasting, the very first ayah is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 183. Allah says, one of the primary purpose of fasting is to give you taqwa, is to give you self-control, is to give you piety, is to give you awareness and consciousness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere looking at you. So this idea of putting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front and yourself at the back seat. My feelings are not as important as Allah's instructions. Even though I'm feeling something, but Allah is asking me, and I will going to give preference to Allah's instructions more than my feeling. That is the essence and spirit of Ramadan. So I hope and pray, inshallah, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us barakah in this month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses our time, our actions, our ibadat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our qiyam and our siyam, our fasting and our prayers and our taraweeh. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to witness the Laylatul Qadr in the last 10 nights, inshallah ta'ala. Take care of your parents also. Make sure you obey them. Make sure you spend time with your parents also, because that is also your door for Jannah. As in the month of Ramadan, you are seeking Jannah. Make sure you are giving time to your parents, because that is also one of the doors for Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wow, that reminder really hits home. So many beautiful, beautiful takeaways. Imam Asif is really a gem.
Yeah,
Very great
subhanallah.
content.
One of personally my favorite things that he said, I don't know about you, but it was on how he said that like Allah's instructions slash Allah's commands are more important than my feelings. And I just think that subhanallah, that is just something that we should really, really try to absorb, because of course we live in a society, in a world where what we want, what we feel, what we want to do, how we're feeling, what we're doing, what we want to eat, what we want to drink, everything we want to revolve around us. But in reality, being a Muslim, your life does not revolve around you. Your life revolves around what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires of you. So kind of reframing that mindset, especially during Ramadan, that you know what I feel, this hunger, this thirst, this fatigue, it doesn't matter, because I'm following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be happy of me. And then in the end, where he talked about that pleasing your parents to get Jannah as well, I feel like, I don't know, for me, it just kind of like made me reflect on how we can use that as a motivation to cultivate a for Jannah mindset. Like, I'm doing this for Jannah, I'm doing this for that, I'm pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? For Jannah. So it's like a for Jannah mindset, that even if I'm hungry, why am I hungry? For the sake of Allah. Why? For Jannah. So everything we do, we have it underneath the umbrella of a for Jannah mindset.
Awesome. Yeah, no, very nice takeaways, and I like how we're reframing the difficulty into making it something of a positive mindset. And just to add on to that, when it comes to positive mindsets, uh, I just want to congratulate everyone that's ever fasted. Right? Like,
Yeah.
this is it's something that shows a lot of discipline. You as a human being have accepted that Allah commanded you fast, and you did it. You denied everything that naturally one would want to do and one is able to do. And you, as someone that's in your youth and your you had so much opportunity to eat behind someone else's back, you restrained yourself. So that takes a lot of discipline, and I need you to just pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself that you are able to control your what you do and how you behave. We kind of sometimes put ourselves down that, oh, I don't have any discipline, I can't get things done, I'm not an achiever. Well, you fasted, right? That's a huge deal. And uh, sometimes we may feel like, I don't feel like reading Quran. I don't feel like doing extra dhikr. I don't feel like praying right now. Those thoughts will come to you. You're a human being. We do say shaitan is tied up, but they are still the whispers that are still echoing around, right? Um, so on that idea, just remind yourself that, dude, I'm already fasting. I'm already doing what I wouldn't normally want to do. I'm already preventing myself from food and drink. I already conquered that part. Why can't I conquer my salah as well? Fasting is one of the pinnacles of obedience. Doing a little extra dhikr, that's easy compared to not eating and drinking. Doing a little bit of Quran, it's easy compared to a little bit of extra dhikr. So, mashallah, the month of Ramadan is right around the corner. Uh, you've already fasted. You've already proven to yourself that you, as a human being, have self control.
Yeah. And self-control is that like most important thing that drives us during Ramadan, because that's what we're using as a foundation building block to really incorporate during Ramadan, because it's that self-control that makes you not eat the cracker in the closet even though your mom's not going to see you or no one's going to see you, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to see you. So it's that self-control that you're practicing. And one of the other things that I was also thinking about is that how like in Ramadan, it is the best month to ask for forgiveness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our past sins, to forgive all the mistakes that we made knowingly and unknowingly, because sometimes we hurt people's feelings and we don't even realize, or we do things and we don't realize that we're like accidentally sinning. So it's definitely one of those, it's like a spiritual vacation, but it's also like a rehab to come out as a better person, to come out with a brand new clean slate. Because as you said, like we're doing dhikr, and that of course can include istighfar as well, like at least 100 times. The Prophet ﷺ did istighfar like more than 100 times a day, and he was a prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like what sins was he doing that he was asking for forgiveness on more than 100 times a day? And if he's a prophet and that's what he was doing, like imagine how much we should be doing. So Ramadan, definitely, I feel like we should try to do a little bit more dhikr, but also incorporate istighfar, because we never know all the mistakes and the sins that we accidentally do, or the things that we see, or the things that we think. So we should constantly try to ask for forgiveness, remembering that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shine His mercy on us, because Ramadan is one of the most beautiful, merciful, all the best adjectives anyone can think of type of month.
Yeah, I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His mercy is so infinite in this month. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that in this month, that the gates of Jannah are flung open, the gates of hell are closed, and the shayateen are locked up. And then continuing along the idea of this being a vacation for us, when we go for vacation, we gotta spend money. But over here, it's awesome. Instead of being broke at the end, you're rich. You're rich with good deeds, and you have a clean slate. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, "Man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." That whoever fasts the month of Ramadan with taqwa, with fear, with knowingness of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and accountability for their fast, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala forgives all of their previous sins. That's something to
SubhanAllah.
be so excited about.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And Ustada Sidra, I know you have a very specific talent in time management and organizing. So, Sheikh Imam Asif Hirani mentioned about time management, and he mentioned a few points. But can you kick us off in that direction about discussing some things more practical we can do in our day-to-day lives, adding on to what the Sheikh already mentioned?
Sure. So I know we were talking about the habit tracker. So originally, when I made that habit tracker, I was thinking about how when I'm in Ramadan, I feel like a really good Muslim. I feel like what I'm doing, I'm doing for the sake of Allah. Like I really feel like a good Muslim. But then I realized in the rest of the month, I just feel like a basic Muslim. And there's nothing wrong with being a basic Muslim. It's just that I have this desire to be a better Muslim. So more than just basic, to constantly be better and try to improve, because of course everyone can improve. So that's how I made it actually started out as like a Muslim good deed tracker, and I just wrote a bunch of different good deeds that I wanted to do, like even if it was like smile at someone, and then if I did it that day, I checked it off. Or it was read Quran for 15 minutes, read an Islamic literature book for 15 minutes, do istighfar 100 times, make sure I do fresh wudu before each prayer, and then I do tasbih after each prayer and dua after each prayer. And the dua part I actually added recently because I realized that that closeness that you feel in dua, it's like it's really different than the closeness you feel in dhikr and the closeness that you feel in salah. Because when you're just completely talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you know deep inside your heart that He is the only one that truly understands you, it just makes like love flow from your heart. And one time, let me tell you a story. One time I was in Masjid Nabawi and I was making dua, and it was after prayer. And I don't know how long my dua was, but like, even though there's so many people around me and like everyone's talking and doing whatever, it was so surreal that even in that moment I didn't realize, but everything just melted away. It was just me making dua with my eyes closed and holding my arms up, and I could feel like the strain a bit in my shoulders. And then when my dua finished, it seemed like all the voices then just started getting a little bit louder, and then life was normal again. But I didn't realize that in that moment, everything just slipped away and it was just me talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that was one of my like practical tips that I use to work on my spirituality, trying to get closer to Allah, and then incorporating the things that I wanted to become in the du'as. For example, you want to stay motivated in Ramadan, you make that dua. You want to do more adhkar, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me the ability to remember you in the times when I don't remember you. And then, of course, making action items. And I know, Sheikh Sama, you have a really good structure on coming up with goals for Ramadan and action items. And inshallah, we'll definitely talk about that as well. And it'll be like a nice exercise that everyone can participate with us as well. But if you want, just to start you guys up, start thinking of 3 habits that you guys would want to kind of incorporate in Ramadan that you think really help your spirituality. And then try to incorporate them on the daily starting today, even though it's 4 p.m., 5 p.m., maybe even it's 7 p.m. where you are. But I feel like if we start to incorporate the things that are important to us before, and we don't wait for tomorrow, we start today, because again, there is no tomorrow. Then tomorrow becomes that today. So there's no tomorrow, right? So we start everything today. And instead of procrastinating, instead of putting it off, we just start it no matter how late it is. And I used to be like that. I used to be like, okay, I'm going to wait for the first of the month, or I'll wait for the first of the week. But when I decided to actually change my life and change my mindset, it was the 27th of the month, and it was a Thursday, which goes against everything I used to believe in. It was not a Monday, it was not a Sunday, and it was not the first of the month. It was not like the 5th or the 15th or anything like that. It was the 27th, and it was a Thursday. But I never looked back after that, because I decided that if I wanted to make a change, I chose that day. I will change today.
MashaAllah, a lot to take in there. And just to backtrack a little, before we get into this idea of setting goals, we have to first learn, and we have to know ourselves as best as possible. So just one of the steps that you to do that is taking a moment and thinking about your day, maybe writing it down. What are some things that happen every day in your life? What time are you waking up? What time are you going to school? What time are you home from school? What times are you eating your meals? And in Ramadan, it's going to be consistent. I can tell you, everyone's going to be eating their dinner at Maghrib time, right? So jot that down and see what your day already looks like, and then you can start developing these goals. And when we talk about goal setting, and we really need to focus on things that are achievable, things that are really practical, things that are measurable as well. We want to
Like
have
SMART goals,
smart.
right?
Yeah. Do you want to walk us through the what is it called? Not the analogy. The
Acronym.
acronym. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
losing that word. Acronym.
So What SMART goals, as Sheikh Sam was talking about, we have S for sustainable. So it's a goal that you know that you can do. And then for M, it's measurable. If you want to be able to read, say, fluently, then how are you going to measure that fluency? If it takes you 5 minutes to read a page, then perhaps fluency for you means 2 minutes a page. And then A is for attainable/achievable. Do you think you can do it? If you're like, you know what, I'm so excited, I'm gonna memorize Surah Al-Baqarah in Ramadan. I pat you on the back for an amazing goal/dream, but do you actually think that's possible in the month of Ramadan? Maybe for some people it is, right? Maybe it is, but is it actually attainable and achievable? And then R is also realistic. It has to be realistic, something that you know that you can do with the time and the resources and the capabilities you have. And then T is time bound. And the way you could make it time bound is like, by the first week of Ramadan, you want to finish maybe five juz reading. And then by the second week, you want to do five more, or you want to do at least, maybe if you want to do one juz a day, so then you're doing 7 per week. So you're like, okay, by Saturday or by the end of that week, I will finish 7. And then the next one, 14, and then so on and so forth. So you have these time bound stamps that you can check yourself like, oh my gosh, Saturday's about to come up. I didn't do like a hizb or 10 pages yesterday. I have to do 1.5 today. So you kind of hold yourself accountable to those timestamps that you create for yourself.
Excellent, excellent. And one strategy I like to do is building off the routine that you built, building off the habits that you've already assigned, that you're already completing. You're already eating dinner. You're already coming home from school. You're already sleeping at nighttime. So building off that, you tie in a habit to the goal. So you make
Yeah,
an action
yeah.
item. My goal is to read 5 pages of Quran every day. So you tie it to something that you're already doing in your routine. You say, okay, well, I'll read 3 pages before dinner and 2 pages before I go to sleep, as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's called stacking goals. So you have one habit that you're already doing, and you tie a goal to it, so that when that action takes place, you initiate the other habit that you're trying to build in right alongside with it.
Right, right. So it's like things that I already do during the day, and then I attach it to that.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. Okay. What advice would you have for like trying to stop bad habits? How do you think I should go about, or anyone should go about trying to figure that out?
I think the month of Ramadan is an excellent time to break off bad habits, because this is a time where the gates of paradise are opened and the gates of hellfire are shut, and
Mhm.
the shayateen are tied up. So this is a time where Allah has facilitated for us to get rid of those bad habits. He's motivated us to build stronger habits, to make good habits, and He's given us an incentive to leave off those bad habits, because everything's facilitated for us. So
Right.
definitely capitalize on this month. I think one way of getting rid of a bad habit is focusing on a good one. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
channeling negative energy to stop yourself from doing something bad, you
Mm-hmm.
use that, and you as a catalyst, and say, I'm using that energy towards a better habit, a good habit that I want to instill.
Right. I love that. I really like that. And do you have any tips on how we can set and reach our Ramadan goals after we've like thought about our habits, the good ones and the bad ones? Do you have any tips?
Plan it out, right? And have some level of accountability. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so actually, let's backtrack first. The first advice would be to start small. The
Okay.
Prophet ﷺ said, أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. That
Mm.
the most beloved of actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those that are consistent, even if they're small. So when you're coming up with your goals, uh, come up with things that are small and consistent. And very important that you write it down. Very important that you write it down so that you have it documented yourself. And research shows that someone that writes it down or verbalizes their goal is more likely to achieve their goal or achieve the task that they have set out to do. And I can go through some academic papers, but I'll give you an easy analogy.
Hmm.
We've all been to a theme park. We've all been to Six Flags, whether it was Boston, New Jersey, uh, California. You've all been to a theme park. When you're about to sit on a roller coaster, they make this announcement, and then at the end of that announcement, they go like this and they make a physical check, right? The purpose of them doing that is to make an it's an action where they're verbalizing what they're doing, and they're tying it with a physical action as well. Instead of writing it down, they're doing a physical scan. And research shows that the number of accidents that happen on roller coasters
Hmm.
significantly went down following this procedure that was implemented. So just the fact that it was articulated, just the fact that they made that action, it reduced the amount of accidents that happened on roller coasters. Now, tying it back, how do roller coasters and Ramadan, what do they have to do with each other? This is it. This is it. If we write down our goals, if we express it to someone else, we're more likely to achieve those goals, right? I said, make a plan, get support, get support. Um, be it with your family members, your siblings, your parents, your friends. Tell each other your goals and have accountability from one another. So you make it a challenge between your friends. Hey, every day we'll do at least 2 pages of Quran, and then you kind of, when you see each other at Tarawih, you'll ask, hey, did you get it done? Or you have a text chat that's going on. You give each other check marks that you did it, or with your parents, with your family members, your siblings, making it a nice a joint effort, right? When you're doing with other people, you're more motivated and there's more accountability. Be consistent and be patient. Don't be too harsh on yourself when you see something that when you miss a milestone. It's not the end of the world. Pick yourself up and keep going. This is the month of Ramadan. Allah's got you. Allah's got you.
Yeah.
Sada Sidra, I know you have a lot of tips as well. Would you enlighten us, please?
I think the habit tracker slash checklist. I feel like I didn't mention that, but by the habit tracker, I mean like, let's say you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you check it off on the days that you do it. Or a Ramadan journal. Subhanallah, there are so many Ramadan journals available. You can go online, and I believe MCNA YMJ has their own Ramadan journal as well. So you can definitely contact your local chapter and get one for yourself, for your friends. It's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. With an ayah, like say, even if it's an ayah a day, you memorize that ayah, you learn a tafsir, you think about, oh, what are the practical ways I can implement this? Or a hadith a day, you read the hadith, you memorize the hadith, and then learning how to implement it practically as well. Or like Ramadan journaling, I feel like is one of the best ways that I sustain my goals in the month of Ramadan. In terms of preparation, perhaps I'll create the goals, but then in terms of sustaining, Ramadan journaling is definitely like the most important type of journaling that I do, because it really helps me stay on track. And then say like I'll evaluate myself, and anyone can obviously should evaluate themselves that, how was this week? How did I do? What habits were easy for me? What was difficult? And then how can next week be better? Because we don't want to plateau, right? We want to be on a roller coaster that only goes up. If we plateau, then we're staying the same, but we want to be better. Like a strong believer, a mature believer, is the next day is always better than the day that has passed. What do you think? Do you think that that would be something that, you know, could be beneficial, Sheikh Sama?
100%. As we had mentioned, taking accountability. The hadith said, "Man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban." Right. This is the
Yeah.
component of ihtisab where you're uh, making sure you hit as high as you can, inshallah. So that checklist will definitely come in handy. I have a business background, so we say whatever doesn't get accounted for doesn't get done. So if you're not taking into account as it gets as you accomplish it, you'll forget if you did it, or if you wouldn't know if you met your markers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's important to also think about how can we fast in a way that's happy and healthy. So now we'll be listening to a talk by Sister Hanifa, inshallah, who's going to kind of run us through how we can sustain being happy and healthy during Ramadan as well.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. My name is Hanifa Hamid Diwan. I'm a registered dietitian. Alhamdulillah, with the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the last 25 years, I've had the opportunity to help people eat well and lead healthy lives. Now we are going to start the month of Ramadan, so let's start with the dua. Allahumma balighna Ramadan. Oh Allah, let us reach the month of Ramadan. Now, in the next couple of days, we are going to be starting our fast. Fasting is very beneficial to our bodies, and we have been very lucky to be gifted our bodies by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah has given us our bodies as an amana, which is a trust. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we look after our bodies and treat them well. And that means that we should be careful of what we put into our bodies and what type of food we eat, because this has an impact on our physical and spiritual well-being. And the type of food we eat affects our behavior and our personality. Now, fasting in itself is a shield from many illnesses of the heart, the body, and the soul. So it is up to us to make sure that we take the benefits of the fasting. Now, when it comes to our body, fasting gives our body a chance to recover, repair, and recharge. Actually, scientists have found that when we fast, it actually helps boost our brain. And the reason for that is that the body is actually able to produce more brain cells because it gets a chance to slow down and repair what it needs to repair. And as a result, we are able to have a better mental focus. And I'm sure you will realize that in the month of Ramadan, we're able to read Quran better, we're able to focus on our prayers better. Again, that's from the bounty and blessing of Allah, and also the fact that our bodies are recovering. And also, fasting gives our body a chance to detox. When we're not eating and drinking, the digestive system gets a chance to rest and a time to heal. And also what happens is our bodies use fat as energy. So when they do that, they also get rid of harmful substances from our body. So we have a really, really good chance for our bodies to detox. And also, fasting gives us discipline. It gives us a chance to get rid of all the bad habits that we may have developed in the past year. So things such as making sure that we eat good food, we exercise, all of those things we can start doing better in the month of Ramadan. Now, a way that we can exercise is when we go for our Taraweeh prayers. The Taraweeh allows our body to move more than maybe we usually do. And as long as we do all the movements correctly and we perform our prayer correctly, we actually benefit our body, our joints, and that sort of thing. And at the same time, we also connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we go down into sujood, we are having a direct connection, but we need to make sure that we are actually doing those things properly. So when we're fasting, it allows us to spiritually connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It gives our body a chance to recover as well. Now, in Islam, overeating has also been something that's been discouraged. And the reason for that is because it causes laziness and it prevents us from being spiritually active. So it's very, very important that we put the right things into our body and that we eat well. So another good habit that we could start in Ramadan is maybe eating foods that are a little bit better for us. So not eating so many sugary foods or fried foods and things like that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in Surah Taha that eat of the good and wholesome things that we have provided for you for your sustenance, but do not indulge in excess. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also said in Surah Al-Araf, Ayah 31, eat and drink, but not be wasteful, as Allah does not love those who are wasteful. Now that can mean not eating too much and throwing food away, which sometimes happens, which we should try to avoid. So only take as much food as you need and share with others. Be generous. That's a good habit to develop in the month of Ramadan as well. Alhamdulillah, in this country, we have a lot of food. It's not that we are struggling and don't have enough food to eat. So when we learn to eat a little bit less in this month and share with others and be generous, we're also helping our bodies to learn to eat less. Because, as I said, we have a lot of food available to us, and we should be grateful to the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not overeat. And also, the Rasul said, the children of Adam fill no vessel worse than their stomach. Sufficient for them are a few morsels to keep their back straight. If they must eat more, then there should be a third for food, a third for drink, and a third left for air. So the main reason for that is that when we overeat, we do feel lazy. And we're not going to be able to worship Allah in the way that we should and we need to. So let's use this month to make sure that we're not overeating, that we're giving our bodies a chance to recharge and recover and repair, and that we are increasing our spirituality by being generous to others when it comes to food, and making sure that we go out and we appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, or reflect upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Now is the time of spring, and when we go outside, we see the trees blossoming, and those trees that are blossoming, a lot of those will give fruit. So we should be grateful and reflect upon the fact that we have those things available to us. And then we should think of others that may not have those opportunities. So let's be generous with our food. Maybe go and donate items to your local masjid who will be distributing food to people who are in need. And let's make sure that we also are very generous in our time and our efforts when it comes to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, these tips have been beneficial, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to benefit from this month of Ramadan. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. MashaAllah.
Subhanallah. So many amazing points. How we can fuel our bodies, especially during Ramadan. One of the more important things that I feel like the sister also talked about was how we should be generous with our food as well. Ramadan, just because we are fasting during the daytime, doesn't mean that we go crazy during iftar time, but rather we control ourselves in all sorts of moderation as well. What do you think, Sheikh Sama?
100%. It's all about knowing yourself and doing what's in your best interest, not what your desire. You already overcame your desires by not eating and drinking, so don't spoil it right after you're given that permission.
Subhanallah. Sheikh Sam, I lost your audio for a second. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry.
Okay. We can still hear you, and I'm not sure if everyone else can hear me, but inshallah we can continue our segment with a beautiful reminder about the physical component. As we mentioned, Ramadan is for your physical body, your spiritual body, your mental body, your mental health. Sorry, and the last one, social, has a very big social component as well. We tend to forget that in the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the believers to fast together as one ummah. If we tried fasting on another day outside of the month of Ramadan, it's hard. It's a lot harder, a lot more challenging. So it's a huge blessing to be able to fast together as one ummah. And there's a social component in it as well, in that we break our iftar together with our family members. That's the smallest, closest unit of society is your nuclear family. So be very respectful of them, help them out, be there for them, and then be there with the community for breaking the iftar. If you're at the masjid, pray Salat al-Taraweeh with the community members. You're going to see your friends, spend time with them, right? Get closer together with them, because you're going to be seeing them every night of this blessed month. We do have one more video from the Sahaba series video contest winner, Sister Ira Ashraf, mashallah, a young, talented individual. This video is short and brief, but it hits home a very amazing message, and we want to continue to revive our connectedness with the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, the beautiful companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So much to learn from them, so much to benefit from them. We're going to play that video for you now.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today my topic is about Abu Dhar al-Ghafari in search for truth. Abu Dhar al-Ghafari has many special qualities, but today we will be talking about one very special quality: his search for truth. When he heard about Islam and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted to find out more, so he decided to travel to Mecca. In Mecca, he had a hard time finding the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because most of the people he found were disbelievers, and they got upset if he asked about Islam or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Dhar ended up having to hide behind the Kaaba for 30 days. That's a lot, with only water and dates. But Abu Dhar didn't give up. Eventually, he found Ali radiallahu anhu, who helped him get to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After talking to him and learning about Islam, he became Muslim. But he wanted to spread this message to his tribe. His family and half his tribe also became Muslims. The lesson we learn is that we have to search for the truth. And when we know about it, we should accept it with our whole hearts. And we should also spread it with others, so that everyone can know it too. Even sometimes everyone doesn't listen, but we should keep on going. I will follow this quality of spreading the message of Islam to as many people as possible. For example, my community, my school, my friends, and more inshallah. I hope you enjoyed this video. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. Beautiful, beautiful reminder by Sister Ira. She was the Sahaba series video contest winner, and congratulations to her and her family. MashaAllah, a very, very nice video. One beautiful how this relates to the month of Ramadan. I want to make that connection. She talked about searching for the truth. Now, there are other people that we're going to come across who are not fasting, our non-Muslim friends and community members that we're going to see at school. Give them the blessing of Ramadan. Tell them about this blessed month. Let them know what you're doing, and don't be shy about it. Don't be shy about it. Continue the legacy of the Sahaba and imparting the blessings of Islam, so they too can enjoy and learn about this beautiful religion. We're going to move on to the final segment. Involves a Q&A from our listeners. So please go ahead and post your questions in the chat if you have any, inshallah.
You can post your questions, inshallah, and then Sheikh Osama will answer them. It can be any and all types of questions. If it's about how can we be more like the Sahaba, how can we incorporate those types of characteristics during Ramadan, absolutely anything. And definitely do remember the three main important things. Number one, setting spiritual goals, starting from right now. Number two, thinking about the good habits that you want to sustain during Ramadan. And then number three, what are the type of things that you think can make you a better Muslim? So we do have a question from Sister Iman. How can we organize our Ramadan journals to make the most out of it? Sheikh Sama, what do you think?
Sada said that this is in your court. So I'll let you answer this one about organization and planning.
So, Iman, this is a very, very good question. If you don't have access to buy one, there are really, really amazing PDFs outside that you can definitely take inspiration from. What I like to do is I have a section for my motivation or my goals for that specific day. And then I have a section that tracks my prayers, if I did my azkar after prayer, and if I did dua after prayer. And then I have another section for my Quran reading, memorization, and revision. How much did I do that day? So I can keep track. And then I have a smaller section on the other page to evaluate myself, that what is like, how did I do good today? Or what were the challenges? What were the obstacles? How can I do better tomorrow? And that and then if I also like to do, I know you guys, some of you guys may think it's really weird that Salsir is doing this, but I have a good deed calendar where I like to do a different good deed each day, whether it's compliment someone, open the door, pick up a rock off the street, even if it's something super duper small. I like to do a random good deed. So then I have a section where I talk about what I did and how it made me feel, and how do I think that that can make me a better person. So different sections, different areas based off of what you think is the most important to you.
Yeah. Just one thing to add on to that, for those of us that are not as invested in journaling or tracking, keep it simple, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Get that. It doesn't have to be something grandier or complex.
Hmm.
It can be just as simple as a sheet of paper that has the days of the week, and you can jot down as a tick mark if you got your 3 goals in that you had to
Yeah, yeah.
towards. It can be at whatever level you are at that day.
It could
Real
also
question.
be just a graph paper, right? Like it already has all the cubes in it, and then you just draw 2 lines, and then you separate one line where you write the goals, and then the other lines where all the boxes are, and then you just number them 1 to 30, and then you check it off.
Awesome, awesome.
We have another question, which is an amazing question. How can we schedule our time for worship during Ramadan if we are in school or working?
So the answer to this question is in the question itself. This word schedule right there, it hits home.
Yeah, yeah.
When you schedule to do things, you can definitely achieve them, and give yourself leeway. Make sure you have properly planned to have some rest, properly planned to have adequate time to prepare your meals, get to places, but plan it out, right? If you're working and you're in school, utilize those times that we normally would kind of be doing mundane tasks. You're driving back from work, be engaged in Quran, be engaged in listening to a lecture, be engaged in dhikr. If you're
Mhm.
riding the bus home, instead of engaging in the weird shenanigans that happens on the bus, capitalize on it. Use that.
Yeah. There's a repetitive question of how, as a fourth grader, can I get closer to Allah? How, as a fifth grader, can I get closer to Allah? I think that one of the best ways to frame this is that, you know what grade you are in doesn't matter. It matters what you want. Whether it's getting closer to Allah by reading Quran, reading the translation, making more dua, or following Sheikh Osama's resolution of trying to do more adhkar. Maybe instead of singing a song that is stuck in your head, you say the kalima, you say la ilaha illallah, you say astaghfirullah, you say subhanallah, you say alhamdulillah, or you memorize new adhkar and you keep your mind continuously focused on that. What do you think, Sheikh Sama?
Whoever's asking these questions, they're asking the right questions, right?
Yeah, mashallah.
The Sahaba would come up to the Prophet ﷺ and ask the same types of questions. So that's a huge, huge congrats to you that you're thinking about coming closer to Allah. And you know that piety is usually not a word in the vocabulary of a fifth grader or a fourth grader. It's not a word that a middle schooler would normally use, but
Mm-hmm.
realize that this is what we're trying to achieve. We want to be pious, and we want to, because piety is what gets you to be the people of Jannah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. We'll take one more question, inshallah. It's there's um an amalgamation of a bunch of questions where how can we incorporate our spirituality on the day-to-day thinking of work and school. Say, for example, someone has a test the next day. Should they not fast? Should they not go to Taraweeh? How can we find that balance, and how can we support ourselves, our friends, and encourage and empower us? Sheikh Sama, what do you think?
Uh, right before I jump into that, the one I see on the screen, do you break your fast when the muadhin says Allahu Akbar, or do you wait till the adhan is completed? No, you break your fast as soon as the adhan starts. So as soon as the adhan starts, you break your fast. And even the muadhin, if you notice very carefully, they take a sip of water and then they give the adhan, or they take a bite of the date and then they give the adhan. So that's where we find that sunnah. The big question of how to get the energy when you're not really feeling it, or you had a difficult day, but you still need to get your spirituality in. Um, y- it's about realizing what's at stake, right? If someone told you, I'm giving $200 to whoever wakes up for suhoor, I think everyone will be up for suhoor. Allah's promised that He's giving us an abundance of reward for praying Taraweeh. He's giving us abundance of reward for reading Quran in the month of in the Shahrul Quran, right? The month of Ramadan is the month of the Quran. So make sure you have a goal that's tied to Quran, right?
Yeah.
Taraweeh, a huge amount of reward tied to praying Taraweeh, a huge amount of reward tied to feeding others. So if we realize what's at stake, we'll all be there.
Yeah.
No one's gonna miss
Yeah.
that $200. No one's gonna miss that $10,000 bonus that their job is offering them. No one's gonna miss a 50% extra credit. With you're in a difficult biology class, or you have a tough geography class, and the teacher, and you have a 65 or a 70% grade in that class as of now, and the teacher says that this is a 50% bonus. Whoever does this assignment, you're going to get 50% bonus. You had a 75, it's going to go above 100, and you're going to have 135%. So you can even make more mistakes but still be okay. This is what's at stake in the month of Ramadan. This is where we find motivation. When we know the stakes are so high, we'll do it. We'll put
Yeah.
that effort in.
100%. Making sure that we remember that motivation, that even if it's not $200, you know what? It's 2,000 gazillion hasanas. It's 2,000 billion gazillion days of actually not more than just days, eternal happiness in Jannah. So that should be our motivation, that we please Allah and we go to Jannah. And that's how, as a third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader, seventh grader, eighth grader, whatever grade you're in, that's how you motivate yourself, because your desire is to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, and everything else melts away. No matter what anyone says, that, oh, you can't fast and take an exam, and you're like, you know what? I can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me extra help. He'll give me extra barakah. There is nothing that you can't do if you're fasting, because you have that desire, that passion, that love, that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, you know what, your opinion doesn't matter. I have Allah. And hasbi Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for me. He is the only support that I need. And if you remember that, inshallah, all your fasts, all your days, even outside of Ramadan, will go amazing.
Yeah, I think that wraps up our podcast. There are still a number of questions coming in, but we are short on time. If, I think we can conclude here that
Yes, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh Osama, for all of your amazing tips, all of your advice, all of the suggestions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this gathering beneficial and rewarding for all of us, and give us the ability to really, really act on all the goals that we have decided to make. If you would like some homework, your homework would be, come up with 5 goals based off of the things that we have discussed in this podcast, and add action items. Add, how do you think I can achieve this? And then try your best. And bit tawfiq, inshallah, you will be able to. And then, of course, you can definitely tune in to the rest of our podcast through MCNA YMJ, and it will continue to inspire you. Jazakallah khairan, everyone, for attending. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and every one of you. And we will end with Surah Al-Asr by Surah Al-Asr by Shaykh Osama, inshallah.
Yeah, and please do keep an eye out for our social media to keep up with the latest news, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach the month of Ramadan. Allahumma balighna Ramadan. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to uh, meet this month with readiness and preparedness, where we're already in the swing of things and we're already motivated and we're already taking action items. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to make the most out of this blessed month. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to exert ourselves and achieve a higher level of spirituality in this month. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر جزاك الله خيرا أحسن الجزاء. Thank you all for tuning in and we will see you all next week inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
مرحبا يا رمضان مرحبا يا رمضان ni mwezi mmoja uliosangizwa